We're live.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. May peace be upon you. This is Edward Ahmed Mitchell, the Deputy Director of CAIR National. I hope all of you are doing well. Thank you for watching us and joining us for this special program tonight. We begin with the name of God. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Again, thank you all for joining us. Tonight is a special program. This is not a normal episode of the Daily Dose, and it's not even a typical fundraising event. It's something unique. We have so many wonderful men and women who work behind the scenes and on the front lines of CAIR to serve, protect, advocate, and empower American Muslims. And tonight we want to give you a chance to meet some of those leaders, some of those critical people who are doing the work of protecting and serving our community. We want to hear about the work they're doing, what resources they need to keep doing that work, and how you can help, inshallah, not only with financial donations, but with joining us, volunteering, supporting, spreading the word about the great work that is being done, inshallah. And what we're doing tonight is actually a taste of what we're going to do on Monday night, inshallah. On Monday night from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock, we'll be holding our annual fundraising telethon live, inshallah. And you're going to hear from not only the people of CAIR, but the people we serve, the clients, the people we work with, the people who go to visit legislators with us, the people who appear on the media with us or benefit from our media trainings, all the people that work with and benefit from and are served by CAIR, inshallah. You're going to get a chance to meet them, hear from them, and hopefully then you will see the value of CAIR and support us, inshallah, to help us finish Ramadan strong, to meet our fundraising goals so that we can keep serving, protecting, and empowering American Muslims. So tonight, inshallah, 1 hour program, we're going to let you meet some of the people, give you a taste of what's coming on Monday night, inshallah, and give you a chance to interact with some of our key leaders. So if you have questions you want to ask them, topics you want them to address, please just leave a comment on Facebook Live, and we'll try to ask them to address those issues while we're speaking, inshallah. So with that, let me introduce my friend and our communications coordinator, my co-host for the evening, Ayan Ajeen. Assalamu alaikum, Ayan. How are you?
Assalamu alaikum, Edward. How are you?
I'm doing well, alhamdulillah. Thank you so much for not only co-hosting, but also producing this program as well as the Daily Dose. So Ayan, should we start by maybe just showing people the preview, the commercial for Monday's program, inshallah, and then we'll welcome our first guest, inshallah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna. Excellent. All right. So everyone, we're just going to show you the brief preview for Monday's show, and then we're going to begin with our first guest, inshallah. So again, Telethon, a night of empowerment, defending the civil rights of American Muslims. That, inshallah, will air Monday at 6 p.m., inshallah. But we're going to give you a little taste of it tonight, whet your appetite, inshallah, with our first guest. We're going to welcome on CAIR National Staff Attorney Zana Galawanji, a key member of our legal team who has played a major role in so many of our recent victories, everything from BDS lawsuits, watch list lawsuits, employment discrimination, other major issues that we are fighting right now in the court of law. Can we bring on Zaina?
Yeah, we're bringing her on right now.
Okay, she's coming on.
Talking to Robert.
I see Robert. Robert, that's not Zaina. Robert's a beautiful man, but he's not Zaina. There we go. There's Zaina. Okay.
Robert, we'll bring you back. We'll bring you back shortly, but we're going to talk to Zaina first.
Yes. Assalamu alaikum, Zaina.
Walaikum salam. How are you doing?
We're doing well, alhamdulillah. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm doing well.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us this evening to talk about some of the great work that the legal department is doing, needs to do, and what support we need from the community so you can keep on winning these victories. Let me start by asking you, and then I'll turn over to Ayan. Can you just tell us a bit about CAIR's legal department? How many people are there? What kind of, what's it like? Just give us kind of the human story of what it's like to be serving Muslims all across the country who come to you with legal problems? Give us some of that human element of what you experience as a CAIR National staff attorney.
So, alhamdulillah, we have about 5 attorneys in the legal department. We have a paralegal, a couple of legal assistants, and a few interns who are helping us out. And we're a very diverse legal department. We have employees from all backgrounds and all faiths, alhamdulillah. And we are constantly busy. Our phones never stop ringing. We constantly have deadlines, whether it's regarding litigation, watch list, BDS, prison. We have employment deadlines as well. We have immigration issues. There's just always something going on in the legal department, which is a good thing, alhamdulillah.
Yes, it's a good problem to have. It's a good problem to have. But I suspect you would agree with me, Zaina, that as many attorneys as we have on staff to handle this work, we need more attorneys, right? We need more resources, more manpower, so that we can handle the cases that are coming in. So Zaina, you've put together some data for us that I want to show to our viewers, and I'll let Ayan ask you about some of these things. And so I'm going to show this with you. And one of the first things that I think is interesting is showing the diversity of cases that you receive, not only in terms of the content of the cases, but where they come from around the country. I want everyone to take a look at this data that Zaina's put together for us. So this little graph here that you're looking at, we're gonna zoom in here. All right, so this shows the current intakes you have pending based on state by state. And Ayan, you take it from here. Let's talk a bit about what we're seeing here.
Yeah, so Zaina, can you tell us a little bit about the work you're doing? Like what kind of clients do you help? Like what problems are they going through?
Yeah, absolutely. So what you're seeing here on this graph is our incoming intakes by state. So these are the people that are looking for our help right now. These are cases that are not currently accepted. They're cases which we're assessing to see whether we have the resources to provide assistance. And so what we see is that we are actually getting requests for assistance from all over the country. And sometimes these individuals are international, but have issues that have happened in the United States. So for example, what we're seeing is that we receive a lot of requests for assistance from Virginia and Maryland, which is not surprising because our national office is located in Washington, D.C.
Right.
And these intakes do not include the intakes that are coming into other chapters. These are solely for the national office.
Right.
We recently had an employment discrimination complaint arise out of North Dakota involving 5 employees, which is why you see that North Dakota actually has a larger number this month. Sometimes we receive several intakes from one state depending on if something has happened in the news, and so that affects our data as well.
Fascinating. Let me ask you, this, looking at this map, I mean, it's important to note that we don't have CAIR chapters in every state of the country, right? So we have these wonderful chapters that take the lead in the work that happens in their state, but there are many states that do not have CAIR chapters. I mean, I think at least 30, give or take, that don't have chapters yet. And so in those states, CAIR National actually will go, whether it's North Dakota, Wyoming, these other states, Louisiana, where there's a legal issue, you all from Washington, D.C. will travel out to those states to serve those clients and help those people. In fact, I think a couple of Ramadans ago, you were in Alaska. Is that right? What happened out there?
Yes, that's correct. So we actually received a complaint from inmates in Alaska regarding a Ramadan issue, and our attorneys actually flew to Alaska to figure out what was going on to see whether we could provide assistance. And because it was an issue that was happening during Ramadan and it was involving food intake during Ramadan, it was something that we treated as an emergency, and our attorneys flew out right away.
Gotcha. So that brings us to a good question, which is also a question Ayan was broaching. I'm going to share my screen again and show you the next graphic. And let's talk about this. Ayan, follow up on that last question you were just asking. Let's take a look at this. And that's, I think you're asking about the type.
Yeah. So I wanted to know, like, what kind of cases do you receive? Can you tell us a little bit about the issues that your clients go through and what you represent them for?
Yeah. So the chart that you're seeing here is for requests for assistance based on case type. So honestly, the most requests for assistance are regarding employment discrimination. So individuals are being denied the right to pray at work, being denied the right to wear hijab, being discriminated against and harassed based on their faith or national origin. After employment, watch list makes up the most requests for assistance. So that involves individuals who are being subjected to discriminatory watch list policies. So they're being interrogated by CBP, they're being searched, questioned, being denied boarding on flights. And then we also receive several requests for assistance from inmates who are being denied accommodation in prisons, being denied the right to pray. Being in Ramadan, we often receive complaints from inmates who are being denied sufficient calories or not being given food during the time to break fast altogether. And we also receive several complaints regarding immigration delays. Those are sometimes tied to watch lists. So individuals who are watch listed will have their immigration applications just completely paused. And then we also receive a lot of requests for assistance regarding Muslim bans. So individuals whose spouses are abroad and they filed a petition, but because that person is subjected to the Muslim ban, their immigration application isn't being processed.
Gotcha. That's a lot, right? And but we highlight that for the viewers just to give you kind of a taste of what it is that our legal department is doing on a daily basis. So, look, Zaina, before we go any further, I want to say to those of you who are watching, you've heard a bit about the work that the legal department does. And if you want to support them, if you want to support the work they're doing, the work that CAIR is doing, we encourage you to take a moment and donate now. Small donation, $5, $10, anything small will help if enough of us do it, inshallah. You can donate by either going to cair.com/donate, or you can text your name and the amount you want to pledge to My Rights. So let's text My Rights, and that number is 41444. Also, My Rights on your phone, inshallah. Text the amount you want to donate, and we'll send you instructions in there, inshallah, to help support the legal department. Now, Zaina, you mentioned a few topics there that I want to key in on briefly, and then we'll save the rest for Monday. One of them is the watch list litigation. Can you just briefly tell us, what is the watch list, and what was the major victory your department recently won against the watch list after, I think, years of battle in the courts of law?
So the watch list is essentially this list created by the government that subjects Muslims, mainly Muslims, to extraordinary travel issues. People can't print out boarding passes. They are subjected to extensive delays while traveling, questioning at airports. It can impact your bank accounts, causing banks to close your accounts without giving you a reason. It can impact your immigration applications. It has a whole host of negative effects on Muslim Americans. And so, alhamdulillah, we have filed several lawsuits across the country to challenge these discriminatory policies. And we actually, alhamdulillah, were victorious in Virginia a little while back. We had a lawsuit that was pending for a few years, and we actually received a decision from the judge declaring, that the DHS trip process, which is the process where individuals request to remedy their issues, that process was inadequate to resolve the issues that individuals face, and essentially that the government needed to reform their remedy process. And alhamdulillah, we were successful, but the government has appealed that decision, and so that's what we're currently dealing with right now.
Okay, wonderful. So listen, on Monday, inshallah, you'll be back with us with additional members of the legal team. We're going to talk about the watch list. We're going to be highlighting a particular client who experienced something horrible dealing with this situation. What else are we going to talk about on Monday, Zaina? Just get a little preview.
So inshallah, we're going to be talking about our BDS work, challenging statutes in various states that stifle the BDS movement. We also are going to be talking about our employment discrimination cases, and we are going to be talking about school bullying, inshallah.
Inshallah. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Zaina, for joining us. We appreciate it so much. Jazakallah khairan for the work you're doing. Ramadan Mubarak, and inshallah, we will see you on Monday.
Shala, thank you.
Thank you.
Zana.
Okay, so again, that was just a little flavor, a little taste of our legal department. So now, inshallah, we're going to pause and remind you of the importance of supporting their work. This work does not happen by itself. We do not charge our clients money. No one comes to CAIR and we tell them, all right, that's $250 an hour. That's what you would do at a private law firm, perhaps. But at CAIR, if someone's got a legitimate problem, they are served and helped free of charge. So when you donate, inshallah, you are helping us to serve and defend Muslims whose rights have been violated free of charge. Our goal, inshallah, by the end of our fundraiser on Monday is $100,000. That'll get us much closer to reaching our Ramadan goal. Every little bit helps. So tonight, inshallah, as you hear the work that's being done and you say, I want to support this, I want to add my name to this, saying that I am part of the fight for justice in America, make a donation, go to cair.com/donate or text my rights, your pledge to my rights. Okay, Zana, you want to introduce our next guest?
I want to say that I'm really glad that we brought Zana on because the cases that the legal department take on are like the situations that happen. These are things that could happen to any one of us, right? Like the watch list cases and employment discrimination, like people wearing hijab or someone with a beard or something, right? Like these are really important and things that could affect any one of us, any one of our family members. So I'm really glad that and on Monday we'll get to hear more and actually see the people that are represented.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So I'll bring on Robert right now.
Wonderful. So you're about to hear from Robert McCaw. I'll let Ayan introduce him. There he is.
Robert, glad to see you again because you joined us earlier.
Good to be here.
Robert, our government affairs director. So Robert, can you tell us a little bit about the work that your department does?
Yeah, I always say, well, our civil rights department is always there defending the rights of Muslims. The government affairs department is making sure Muslims are equipped to use those rights. So I want to make sure American Muslims are empowered to engage government elected officials, whether that's at the local, state, or federal level, that they know how to join in coalition with other communities to advance the policy agenda, a policy agenda that not only benefits Muslim Americans, but all Americans. And so our department actively works not only with our network of CAIR chapters, but where we don't have CAIR chapters. And we're always reaching out to communities and make sure that they're involved in their state legislatures. And there, where we can identify federal policies that are important to the Muslim community, we're going to send out action alerts. We're going to create fact sheets. We're going to have state capital days. We're going to have federal hill days. We're going to constantly engage Muslims into the civic process. And so, this year it's the 2020 census, it's the general election. We want to make sure Muslims are always being prepped to be engaged and be empowered.
Absolutely. And Robert, let's talk about, the details, some of the work you do. This is just a look at, some of the work that you're doing. Can you tell us about, this and what it indicates? What this is summarizing about your ability to harness and mobilize American Muslims across the country into action?
Most definitely. So again, it takes resources to get these types of tools, but CAIR spends the money. So American Muslims are able to just easily get information online and click and send messages to local, state, or federal officials. And also, if there's like if Fox News has some type of, bigoted anchor, if that could ever happen.
Fox News? No, Robert,
no,
never. What are you saying?
We can send alerts, and Judge Pirro could maybe get kicked off the airways for 2 weeks if we send enough emails. So what CAIR does is we have an easy to use click and send action alert system. It's hosted on our national website, but we're also promoting it through Facebook, through Twitter, other social media. At least once a week, we send out an alert, and on average, 15,000 individuals across the country are engaged in these alerts, and they don't just do one alert a week. We have people that have done at least 30 alerts this year, and they've sent in total over 40,000 messages in the last year to local, state, or federal officials. Just this week, we launched an alert where Representative Steve King, this white supremacist that somehow represents Illinois in the House, he was stripped of his committee positions because he actually defended white supremacy in an interview, right? And with the New York Times last year. So he's now making some public motions saying, actually, I'm going to get reinstated this coming year. And we issued an action alert, and we're calling on people to contact their members of Congress and say, hey, that's a bad idea. A white supremacist shouldn't be able to affect legislation. I think you get the idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
Robert, I want to ask you about the Hill Days that we put on, and we got these done in like different states, right? So I went to my first the state capital, like Muslim Lobby Day. I did one of my first after I started working at CAIR, and I think I came back and told you like that was such an amazing experience. Actually feeling like I had a role, right? Like I was able to talk to these change makers and these lawmakers and let them know how what they're doing and their decisions affect me. So I think it's something that's really important, right? And it's such a nice way to get people involved in like actually have a say in the decisions that are made about us, right? So can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's there's two capital days. There's the National Capital Day, which CAIR co-hosts with other national Muslim organizations. But for Muslim state capital days, there's about 12 to 15 across the country, and CAIR chapters host the majority of these throughout the nation. And this is one of the first opportunities, especially a lot of young Muslims get, to speak with their elected officials in the state capitol, in the state house, in the state senate. And advocacy is all about personal relations. If you have elected officials in the state capitol that are meeting with their Muslim constituents, they're more likely to remember them when it comes down to legislation that could help Muslims or hurt Muslims. And at the same time, these state capital days, which we've been doing for over like 12, 13 years, they are training generation after generation, crop after crop of young Muslims that it's so easy to actually have these really authentic personal conversations about issues that impact you. When we were at the Kentucky State Capitol Day, which was their first one this year, CAIR took we took all the experience of our chapters in doing these days, and we seeded a new event in Kentucky. And it was just great. We had over 100 students there, young folks learning that it's so easy to talk to elected officials and that this should be the new normal for Muslim communities. And it is now.
And by the way, Robert, one of the things I want to note about that is not only were you there helping with that Hill Day, but there were also armed anti-Muslim protesters who were there. And you slipped into you went over to approach them directly and filmed some of the things that they were saying because they were, tell us about what they were doing to the kids who were participating there.
Yeah, so this was really sad. I was actually, this wasn't planned. I was walking to my car and I saw these people that were trailing us all day with these signs that I'm not going to repeat, but they were very anti-Muslim, and they started walking towards these kids that were getting on their bus, and they were spewing the anti-Muslim things that these bigots do. And I whipped out my cell phone and I was trying to distract these hate protesters, get their focus back on me, not the kids, and also document them for our Islamophobia, our research and advocacy department, so we can understand this network of hate better. But we tried shouting them down, and in the end, though, we captured a video that showed these white supremacists, these anti-Muslim bigots yelling at Muslim school children, many of color, getting onto their bus. And I hate saying it, but that's not the first time that's happened in U.S. history. But that video did go viral, and millions of people had an opportunity to see it, and they get to understand what Muslims go through. And at the same time, Muslims see that, we can stand up to these thugs and defend ourselves.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That was like a side thing that happened, but obviously that shouldn't be the main focus of the event.
It wasn't, because
so successful. It was like bringing those children and getting them exposed to like having an active role in.
And the fact that the protesters were there tells me they understand the value of what those kids were doing, right? Yeah. They're out there angry that we're holding Hill Days because they don't want to see Muslim Americans become politically engaged, politically empowered, especially the young generation, right? So they're trying to scare you and everyone else out of participating. But alhamdulillah, we keep going back and we keep
do.
lobbying and we keep meeting with our representatives. Alhamdulillah, we'll keep doing that. Now, Robert, on Monday, inshallah, we're going to have you back for a longer conversation about some of the work government affairs is doing, including Hill Days. And hopefully we're going to have a few guests who will participate in the Hill Days to talk about the experience, the benefit, and encourage others to do it. But let me ask you this, Robert, what, in an ideal world, right? If we've got a donor out there watching right now and says, you know what, I want to support CAIR, but tell me what do you need to do? What in an ideal world, if you had the money to do it, if you had the staff to do it, what could you be doing to really turn the tide against anti-Muslim bigotry, or to really help Muslims get to the level of political engagement we should be at going into the future? Robert, what are your goals for your department? What do you want to see happen that our supporters can help you make happen, inshallah?
So in the short term and long term, I believe the way we turn the tide against anti-Muslim bigots is that we empower American Muslims. And we're winding down on our census work 2020, and we're ramping up on our election work. We already have a list of 500,000 Muslims registered by phone lines. I would love to get the money to be able to purchase the list of every Muslim voter that has a cell phone. I'd like to get the additional funds to get peer-to-peer texting technology where I can get teams of volunteers to send one-on-one messages to Muslims that have cell phones that are registered to vote and remind them to get out during the election. I wish I had at least $30,000 in social media funding like every other political campaign, so I could target Muslims from their homes and remind them that an election's coming up. And even here's a link to our upcoming website, Muslims.vote, which can tell them how they can vote safely from their homes. You know, there's a lot of money that can be spent in mobilizing the Muslim vote. I just want to make sure that we're at the table.
Absolutely. So look, we're not going to be shy here. This work, it takes staff, it takes time, it takes resources. So inshallah, we need your support. Again, you can text your pledge to My Rights, or you can go to cair.com/donate, or you can donate via Facebook on one of the donation links on our page. Robert, we don't want to share too much because we want to save some of this content for Monday. But the last thing I want to ask you about before we move to our next guest is the work you've done to effectively counter and stop nominations of anti-Muslim bigots to government positions. There have been several people who were nominated by President Trump to important positions of government. CAIR spoke up against it. CAIR fought back, and people just assume, well, it's going to happen. There's no stopping it. It is what it is. It's going to happen. But you had some success stopping some nominations. Can you tell us about that? And maybe we can start with Mr. Green.
Yeah, so Trump back in 2017. Oh, you have the slide. That's even easier. Back in 2017, Trump nominated Mark E. Green as Army Secretary, which is a high position in the Department of Defense, oversees the Army and its operations. And this guy was an anti-Muslim bigot, and he had a lot of other faults. But CAIR really focused and wanted to elevate the fact that he had some problematic issues. And when you look at U.S. foreign policy and how it engages other Muslim countries, Muslims on the ground, you do not want an anti-Muslim bigot running the U.S. Army. So we waged a full court public press campaign, and we raised all the different anti-Muslim things he said. He was a big supporter of the Muslim ban. He would say to questions about Muslims being like a horde, that would be that's a great question on the campaign trail. He had really misinformed ideas about what Muslims even believe about Jesus. He didn't think we believed he was born of a virgin. And all these things really kind of mix into the standard formula of the Trump administration trying to advance anti-Muslim bigots into policymaking positions. And CAIR took these statements. We sent them full court across to Congress. We sent them to the Senate Armed Services Committee. We peppered the committee with lots of questions about this individual. And members of the committee in the public started asking about him. And some of the things that the members of the Senate committee that looks over his nomination were concerned about were these anti-Muslim comments. CAIR raised that issue, and that's why the Washington Post credited CAIR for bringing those issues to concern. Because if CAIR's not voicing that, it might not raise up into the public consciousness. And instead, this is one more talking point to take down a bigot, and we were happy to do so.
Absolutely. And so on Monday, inshallah, we'll talk more about this, but I'll just give you a little preview that there are other people whose nominations are currently pending. Also, again, Army positions, Pentagon positions who have a great influence over American foreign policy, and also these people have a hatred of Muslims and Islam. So we are combating those nominations right now. We'll keep the public updated, but again, this is the work that CAIR is doing. It's kind of like, you may not hear about these things, right? If someone's nomination fails, you may not hear about that. It's almost like if the CIA stops an attack from happening, well, you don't know they pulled it off, right? But there are great things that are happening and bad things that are stopped from happening because you support CAIR, because you make sure CAIR is there behind the scene, not only on the front lines, but behind the scenes, right? It's not only when you see us on TV that we're doing something, right? Most of Robert's work is done in his office on Capitol Hill behind a camera, not in front of the camera. So we thank you for your work, Robert. Thank you. May Allah reward you, grant you wise decisions, sincere intentions, and success.
May CAIR be supported in this work.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to thank someone just made a donation of $1,000, $1,025, mashallah. So thank you so much to that kind donor. And please, we encourage others to do the same. Support this work. Donate. It can be $1,000. That's great. Make it more, inshallah. But anything, $5, $10, $50, $100, whatever you can donate to support the great work that Robert, Ayan, and our other members are doing, please do. Robert, we'll see you on Monday, inshallah.
All right. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ayan, please, our next guest.
Our next guest is our Director of Research and Advocacy, Abbas, and we're bringing on Melissa with him to talk about the work that they do.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. We've got Abbas and we've got Melissa Levinson from the Research and Advocacy Department. Yeah, there they are. Assalamu alaikum, Abbas. Hello, assalamu alaikum, Melissa. How are you all?
How are you?
Good. Wonderful. Abbas, please start off by introducing yourself, and Melissa, introduce yourself and tell us a bit broad strokes about the work of the Research and Advocacy Department, because a lot of people will hear that and they'll say, well, that sounds fancy. That sounds complicated. What research, what advocacy, what are you all doing back there? What is your department all about? And it's perhaps, arguably one of the most important departments at CAIR, I would say. So give us the broad strokes for people who are not familiar with your department. What are you and Melissa doing? Strokes about.
I appreciate it. Look, to make it really easy, I consider Islamophobia a type of climate change problem. We have a really set of nasty actors who are the factories and the pollutants that lead to a long-term climate change and kind of environmental hazard problem. Islamophobia has this kind of long-term impact. What we do in our department is that we study those factories, we study those pollutants, we understand the sort of supply chain of hate that comes together and influences our society. So just like climate change has, floods and acid rain and environmental toxins, well, what we do is we recognize that a hate crime is backed up by years and years of propaganda, by years of institutions pushing some kind of agenda. And what we do is we dissect those networks and we follow those things through. So we keep statistics about all the bias incidents that take place around the country on a regular basis, working with our national network, mashallah, and they do amazing work in reporting. We analyze those reports, we monitor through the media ourselves, and then we go deeper to explore how Islamophobia impacts our society in various ways. And so happy to get into some things, but I want to make sure that Melissa Levinson, our proud interns turned fellow and real critical piece of the office, has a chance to introduce herself.
Thank you. Melissa, please tell us about the work that you've been exposed to since working as an intern, now a fellow with us. The work that you do, and what do you think is the key value of this department? What do you think are the key things you all are working on and doing?
So I've had the great fortune of working with CAIR for the past year and with Abbas on specifically school engagement issues. And I think it comes as no surprise that Muslim students and youth are shouldering a lot of the burden of Islamophobia. And so one of the things that our department's been doing is undertaking a really comprehensive project to address Islamophobia and bias and bullying against Muslim students in schools. And so one of the things that we're doing is we're currently conducting a survey across 5 US states to try to better understand the experiences of Muslim American youth in public schools, and the extent of harassment and bullying, and how we can best use this reliable data to create comprehensive practices and solutions that we can provide to schools and parents to help address these issues. I see working under Abbas as a great privilege, because I've learned so much about, the nuances of how to best create change, and to best alert Americans about these really important issues. And I think combining really academic rigorous research with advocacy is one of the best ways to combat these really complex issues.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, Melissa. And we're so happy to have you with CAIR. So, this issue of school bullying, let's focus on this, because there are many different things your department works on. One of them is the annual reports and the special reports. I think most recently your report, Hate-Free Philanthropy, that exposed the fact that mainstream foundations were funding these radical anti-Muslim hate groups, sometimes knowingly, sometimes unknowingly. And you produced a report exposing that, and we're able to get some of the funding for these groups cut. We're going to talk more about that on Monday, inshallah, during our program. But I want to hone in on the school bullying thing, because I think you're spending a lot of time working on that. And there's the data. It's one thing to say kids experience bullying, but it's another thing to actually have the data to back that up and use that data to drive changes in public policy. Abbas, can you tell us more about why this school bullying, is such an important focus for your department, and give us a little more detail? What are you doing on that issue?
Yeah, absolutely. But before I begin into the bullying thing, I want to say it categorically that it's been my privilege to work with Melissa and find talent like Melissa to work on this project. Melissa comes from Georgetown University, finishing her master's there, working on issues related to representation of Muslims in textbooks. And with her expertise in the academic sense, what's exciting in our job in our office is that we want to apply this research to impact change. And so I really consider our office a kind of applied research and advocacy department. I think that would be a good way to describe it. So what are we doing to collect the data? Look, a lot of people know that the problem is out there, but policymakers, administrators, and frankly, the larger public, they have some kind of fetish for statistics. And so they need to see the statistics. You've got to show it to them. And we got to get it out there. And sometimes we have to convince even our own communities that this is a shared problem. A family experiencing bullying might not realize that one in, something like, I think it was one out of every 2 families, 50% of families, according to ISPU's recent report last year, experienced somebody in their family knowing somebody who had gotten bullied in their Muslim families, right, in their Muslim network. And so a lot of people might not realize that, this problem is vast, this problem is out there. So we have to get the statistics. But getting the statistics and getting them done accurately and controlling the methodology in such a way so that somebody can't come and poke holes in the way that you gathered this data and take away from the advocacy, you have to spend a lot of time with experts, formulating the survey, planning the execution of the survey, analyzing the results, and really kind of walking this process along. And no matter how hard you try, you cannot rush these things. And
Right.
To make a direct appeal to the audience, this work is professional work. This is work that needs to be done in a systematic, rigorous way so that we can go to the New York Times and the Department of Education and the state boards of education and say, look, this is the methodology. These are the statistics. 300 students in this state, in this state, in this state, and in that state experienced XYZ. To do that work, you can't rely upon volunteers. You can't send out a Twitter feed and say, fill out this survey. You have to control the data. Nobody would expect you to do a lab vaccine test, in a garage or something like this. No, instead what you have to do is you have to do this systematically and authoritatively. I do want to show some progress that we've made, if you don't mind, for just a
Please.
moment. And this is a landing page that houses some of our work here on Islamophobia in public schools. Do you see this scene, this screen that says bias and bullying
Yes,
addressing?
we see it. Yeah, we got it.
So bias and bullying addressing Islamophobia in public schools is our landing page. And what we have here are a set of resources showing what we've done. And one of the things that I'm really proud to talk about is a project that we did last year in coordination with America Indivisible and the Religious Freedom and the Religious Freedom Center. What we did is we gathered stakeholders actually from all around the country, and we had them attend a full day symposium where we conducted really targeted conversations, a focus group to identify what are the best practices to address this problem. And so you're talking about school administrators from the district level, social studies administrators, you have diversity and equity experts in the room, people from academia, people from practice, people from advocacy. And we also did this work with Sikh Americans who also face a lot of discrimination similar to Muslims. And so we put together this white paper, which might not seem like it's a very exciting. It doesn't have many bells and whistles, no graphics and things like that. But I'll tell you that the substance in this thing has been lauded and praised by experts and practitioners in this space. Effectively, this is a blueprint on how to challenge Islamophobia in public schools. And it's a blueprint, but it's only as good as the paper that it's on without the resources to execute the program. And so what we really need is investment in our department towards this effort so that we can take the knowledge that we have, and push it all the way through to the end and really impact change in a long term.
Absolutely, absolutely. Melissa, tell us more about, what are the future goals of the department on school bullying, but other issues. Can you tell us about what are your goals if, we've got people who want to donate, want to support, but want to know, what resources do you need? What do you want to accomplish? If we could just give you an unlimited pile of gold, what would you do with the department? What needs to happen to turn the tide, to document, expose, and turn the tide against anti-Muslim bigotry, whether it's in schools, employment settings, wherever else? What's your wish list?
That's a great question. The way that Abbas and I have been approaching it is it's not just an issue of peer-to-peer bullying in schools. We see the issue as manifesting in three parts. So peer-to-peer bullying, teacher and student or in staff administrators and how they interact with students and their equippedness to be able to deal with these issues, and also the curriculum itself that's being taught in schools. And so what we see going forward in the future is a project that would tackle each of these three fields simultaneously so that we can create holistic change. So a project that would target education reform and curriculum reform to be able to create teacher training across the country and to implement these so that teachers are readily available and know more about Muslims and practices and how to best support their students. We're currently in the midst of creating a toolkit and a report about our findings from the survey. So these will be available hopefully by the end of the summer, that will be a resource for teachers and school administrators and parents to better support their students that may be experiencing these issues. And so going forward, I would like to see an initiative like this to be able to branch out across the country and really be able to tackle local issues that may be arising and also the more broader national issues.
But I have to just say that, Melissa has been kind and generous to work with CAIR as an intern and now as a fellow with a very, very modest, excuse me, Melissa, but a very modest sort of, stipend for her work. But again, if you want this work to continue, it needs to be professionally invested in. It doesn't take me, it doesn't take Melissa. It really requires a very very sort of robust staff of and an organization to address this kind of issue long term. We see comparable organizations out there that are in the education space with staffs of 20, 25 people. I'm not asking for that, but we definitely need funding to be able to staff talent and enthusiasm in people like Melissa and others so that we can impact change on the ground long term.
Absolutely. Again, if you'd like to support the work that they are doing to counter Islamophobia, to again, not just to counter, but to first document it, to expose it, and to turn the tide against it. Again, text your pledge to 41444 or go to cair.com/donate. Alhamdulillah, while we were speaking to you, Abbas, our donation amount went up by about $500. So we're up to $1,525 from multiple donors. So thank you to everyone who is supporting this work. Again, may Allah reward you for the good that Abbas and Melissa and our other staffers do, because you're a part of this. CAIR does not exist without the support of people across America, Muslim and otherwise. And I love to have people like Melissa and others on board, because CAIR is not just an organization for or by Muslims. We reflect the diversity of America, people who believe in justice, people who believe that it's wrong to fire someone because they wear a hijab. It's wrong to bully a kid because his name is Muhammad. And so we thank you so much, Melissa, for your contributions. Thank you, Dr. Abbas, Dr. Barzagar, for your work. Melissa, go Hoyas, and congratulations on your work at Georgetown. Thank you both for joining us. We will see you again on Monday to hear more detail about your work, and also, inshallah, to hopefully take some questions from the audience about what they can do to help you. So thank you both for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Ayan, our next guest, please.
Well, before we bring on Brother Ibrahim, I want to say that it's important when people are donating, everyone wants to know what their donation is going to contribute to, like how it's going to actually help. So I'm really glad they talked about the tangible effects of their research, how it's going to change what we see in classrooms, and how we see children interacting with each other, teachers interacting with students, because they're creating like actual guidelines for how highlighting the problems and creating guidelines for how we can move forward to avoid these problems. So I'll bring on Brother Ibrahim next, so we can talk about the communications department.
Yeah. Which, by the way, is Ayan's department.
Brother Ibrahim.
Ibrahim, how are you, brother?
Alhamdulillah.
Hamza, thank you so much for joining us. So, Ayan, I'm going to take over so I can interview both of you, inshallah. No, feel free to keep asking. But, I want, the people to know about the wonderful work you all do, both in front of the camera and behind the scenes, because it's not easy. People see us sending out statements almost every day, press releases. We see us quoted in the media. That does not come easily, right? It's not something you just snap your finger and it's done. You two spend, I can't even imagine how many hours every day before and after the normal workday, making sure that we are documenting what's happening in the media that is relevant to Muslims, responding to stories and incidents that are relevant to Muslims in the media, and also positively impacting media coverage of American Muslims. So, Ibrahim, go ahead.
I mean, our goal since we started back in 1994, and I was there on day one when we started, our goal has always been to be a voice of the Muslim community to the mainstream media, and to be a resource to the mainstream media from the Muslim community, so that they know that if there's anything to do with American Muslim civil rights, CAIR is the place to go to. That they know we're going to answer the phone 24 hours a day. We're going to respond immediately. We're going to have a statement reflecting the views of the mainstream community. And that's really what we've built up over the past 26 years. I've been dealing with some journalists for that entire period so that they know us personally. So it's really been something we've been building step by step over the past 26 years.
Absolutely. And, Ayan, you've been with the communications department now for how long?
About a year.
About a year. So, Ayan, give us a little behind the scenes look at what your life and Ibrahim's life is like. What work goes in to doing what you all do, to making sure that American Muslims have a voice in the mainstream media?
Well, what I think is interesting about our department is that every other department at CAIR intersects with it, right? So like every department, their work that they do, a lot of it comes through communication. We are the link between all of their departments in CAIR and the outside world. So like Abbas's work, how they're creating all these reports. We're putting them out so everyone can have access to them. What Robert was talking about the actually going out and having advocacy days. We create like we package videos so people can see that these things are actually happening, and so they can be able to like access them as well, like go out and be part of this. And legal, like we are putting together press releases for when a situation happens, we're bringing attention to it, right? So I think it's really interesting being part of a department that is encompassing of all of the work that, like, defending all the people that CAIR defends.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, one of the main things that we've done, as she just explained, we've created a synergistic effect with the civil rights of American Muslims and the communication department, reinforcing the civil rights through communicating. Very often in the past, we didn't always have, dozens of lawyers around the country, and a lot of it depended on the communications efforts we would do when a company would discriminate, when somebody would be fired from their job, when some public official would do something Islamophobic. It was really dependent on the communications we put forward to name and shame them and create a positive synergistic impact on the civil rights of American Muslims. Now we have, lawyers and research departments and all that, but it wasn't always the case. And by the way, for those who have been getting CAIR's daily messages for the past 20-some years and have benefited from this, have seen CAIR's work, really take a moment right now and go to cair.com/donate. Donate. It's the last 10 days of Ramadan. You get many multiplied benefits for donating. There's a zakat calculator there. Calculate your zakat. Go ahead and make your donation now, because when we monitor the media on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, none of that is free. We have very expensive databases that we pay for on an annual basis, thousands and thousands of dollars, to have access to hundreds of thousands of media professionals. I mean, if there's an issue and we can enter a keyword in our database and pull up every journalist who has ever written about that issue, and then send them the American Muslim community's position on that issue, that's invaluable, but it's not free. You really need to support us in this effort. We'll do the work. You just need to supply the support. Again, cair.com/donate.
Absolutely. And Ibrahim, I thank you for mentioning that, because when I joined CAIR, I guess it's been 4 years, 5 years almost now that I joined as the director of CAIR Georgia, it was remarkable. You could almost instantly pull up any story, incident that happened around the world that was relevant at all to the Muslim community here abroad. You were getting access and tracking that story using, these very expensive databases and tracking software you have. And similarly, if something, if CAIR was doing great work in the community or something happened that we were contributing to, you could also track that. And if something happens to a Muslim in America that we haven't gotten a call about yet, you can find out about that incident because you're tracking that, and then we can see if we can help. And most importantly, as you mentioned, winning cases, it's not always just about the law. In fact, sometimes it's more so about not the court of law, but the court of public opinion. So working together and collaborating with our legal department, you're able to harness public opinion, harness public pressure through the tools that you have and the experience you have doing this for 25 years and the media contacts you have all around the country to shine a spotlight on injustice and, force change, bring pressure to force change. So look, it's almost 7 o'clock. Let me close by asking you this, Ibrahim, going forward. We've been doing this for 25 years. We've made progress, but the fight has not been won yet. What do you need, to continue turning the tide against Islamophobia in the court of public opinion? If we've got donors out there who say we want to support, we want to help you guys make more progress, what kind of progress do you want to make going forward, Ibrahim?
Well, we just have to continue and expand what we are doing. We need to be able to have the resources to gain the intelligence in the war against Islamophobia. Intelligence is key, and intelligence isn't free. So we have to have the community support as we have over the years. With all that's going on now, we can't even stay in the status quo. We have to expand what we're doing. Not only, you know, the past support, we have to get increased support, and that's key in these critical times.
Right. And we're competing with, you know, Ayan and Ibrahim, you know this well because you track what anti-Muslim bigots are doing and saying. We are competing against a very well-funded network of anti-Muslim hate groups. Many of these people don't have day jobs. All they do is sit on computers, maybe in their parents' basement, thinking up horrible things to say and do to Muslims. And these people get millions and millions of dollars of donations from wealthy people and from people who are tricked into giving them small donor donations. We are competing against a behemoth out there. And so when you support the work that the communications department is doing, you are helping us win that battle in the court of public opinion against anti-Muslim groups that are spending millions of dollars to try to restrict your right to practice Islam in America, your neighbor's right to practice their faith, a kid's right to go to school in peace, a woman's right to go to work wearing a hijab. They want to take all those rights away, and they've got a lot of money behind their fight to do it. So when you support us, you are helping us to counter that effort and to make progress in supporting and advancing justice. Inshallah, we're going to hear more from you, Ibrahim and Ayan, on Monday. We're going to show some clips of some great work, great sound bites that you all have secured in the mainstream media on Monday, inshallah, 6 o'clock. Thank you, Ibrahim, for joining us. And inshallah, have a great iftar, and we'll see you Monday night, inshallah, at 6 o'clock.
Inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. Ayan, so it's almost 7 o'clock, alhamdulillah. I'm shocked. I didn't think we would finish in time. MashaAllah. Great job, Ayan. Alhamdulillah. So Ayan, why don't you close this out, with the final message to our viewers?
I'm really glad we got to hear from everyone today about the work that their department does, because it's, as Ibrahim said, it's invaluable work, and the 1 hour is obviously not enough. That's why we're going to bring everyone back on Monday. Inshallah, everyone joins us to hear not only the work that they do, but from people who are affected by this work. The civil rights will bring on clients, and Robert will bring on people who have actually gone out to lobby. So it's going to be a packed night, and we're going to get to see like a deep dive into the work that we do here at CAIR.
Absolutely. So again, the main program will be Monday night, 6 o'clock. We'll broadcast it on Facebook Live, inshallah. And you will be able to see not only the people who work for CAIR, but inshallah, the people who CAIR serves, the everyday people in the community who have benefited from CAIR's work and thereby benefited from the support you give us. So Jazakallah khair to everyone who has donated tonight. Alhamdulillah, we are nearing, I think, $2,000 in donations, alhamdulillah. So thank you so much for the donations, and inshallah, please join us Monday night, 6 o'clock, for a night of empowerment. You get it? A night of empowerment, mashallah. And before the potential real night of power. Make sure you all are worshiping devoutly every night, but especially during those odd nights. And please count CAIR, our CAIR chapters, and all the organizations around the country doing great work to support and defend justice during these final days of Ramadan. Thank you so much, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. May peace be upon you.
Assalamu alaikum.